Okay, it's that big moment. It's that moment that every weaver, well, okay, maybe just me, but many weavers love, which is the moment where you're ready to cut the woven fabric off the loom. But before I do this, I want to spend a little time talking you through my plans for the next project, which is going to be, I'm just going to say it, it's going to be tying on a new warp to the existing warp with a different colorway so that I can make another set of scarves. Although this next time I'm probably just going to make two because three felt like, oh my goodness, when is this project going to be done? So you may recall that between each of my three scarves, I left 10 inches of warp unwoven. And that was so I could cut in the middle of that unwoven section and have 5 inches of fringe at each end of each scarf. Well, on this last scarf, now I have to decide where I'm going to cut, especially if I'm going to tie on a new warp to what's already threaded on the loom. I'm going to move the camera for a sec just to show you. Okay, so if I were not planning to tie on a new set of warp chains, I could just snip right here at the back. Oh, and before we move away from the back, I want to show you two quick things that make me very proud. One is that this warp thread was just looser than everybody else in its bundle, so I just weighted it with a pair of S hooks. And on the rightmost selvage, these are my two warp ends where I finally just said, you know what? They keep breaking. I'm not sure why they're breaking. I don't know what the problem is, but I'm just going to leave them. But that was it in a project of, I think this was 356 warp ends. Let me check that number. 364 warp ends. I had one loose warp end and two broken warps. And that feels like a really big win to me because this is really, really fine yarn. It's bamboo, which means sometimes it doesn't like being being going through the abrasion of the heddles and then the beater so much. So what this tells me, this rate of success tells me that I actually did a good, if not great job, winding my warp chain, beaming the warp, and then advancing my weaving really often. So yay for me. I'm going to celebrate that. Okay, so like I said, if I weren't going to tie on another thing, I could just take my scissors and snip, snip, snip right along this line and pull everything out of the heddles and be done. But since I do want to tie on another warp, I am going to cut from in front of the heddle, or sorry, in front of the reed. And in fact, uh, almost certainly, I'm going to need a different set. So I don't need to worry about preserving this yarn that's left in front of the reed, but I still might. So I'm going to have, oh my gosh, maybe at most a foot of yarn left on this loom after I cut off the scarf to tie on the new warp. And again, if I'm not planning on using the same set for the next set of scarves, I might snip behind the reed, and then I can tie off each of these sets with a loose overhand knot so that nothing happens in the time between taking this project off the loom and tying a new set of warp chains on. If I were sure I were going to do it at the same set, I would absolutely cut in front of the reed. But I don't have a lot of length to play with. I've got exactly 6 inches to work with. So I'm going to use this as my cutting line, this front edge of the beater bottom, and that will leave me with 6 inches, which is pretty good. But I probably won't have enough loose yarn left to tie overhand knots in front of the reed. I might, who knows? But without more ado, let's get to snipping. So I'm going to come around to the other side of the loom, and I'm going to try to do this from in a way that you can all all see on camera. Wish me luck. This is this is a bit dicey. Okay, so I've got my snips, and I could just as easily use my big sewing scissors, but I'm just going to use my snips. And I'm just going to go snip, 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 snip. It is really helpful to have a guide here. And it's also really helpful to keep the tension on the weaving as you go. But notice what happened because I was so close to the reed, everything just fell out of the reed. And that's okay. The real problem, and oh, see, I had too much tension on, is that it came out of the heddles. So this is another reason why adding half a yard to my warp length would have saved me. So if I want to redo this scarf in a new set of colors, I am still going to have to do a lot of rethreading of heddles because I had too much tension when I cut, and yeah, it was just a problem. Okay, but here's how we're going to turn this lemon into lemonade, folks. It wouldn't be the worst idea for me to take a break from this particular treadling pattern and this particular weave structure and do something fun and different. So I might just pick a different project to do as my next project. So again, the thing that would have made this work is loosening the tension somewhat. Like it was kind of ping, ping, ping over at the left. And if I had loosened the tension just a couple of cranks of the ratchet gear, it probably wouldn't have bounced back so far when it was suddenly released from all that tension. But live and learn. And this was not an onerous project to warp or to thread on the loom, so it's not that big a deal. And from the front of the loom, I am unwinding this beautiful scarf. And remember that I did not test the set on this. I just did what the designer said. So the fact that the hand of this fabric is as lovely as it is again a testament to well thought out design. I have actually done projects where I used exactly the same yarn the designer chose at exactly the set the designer specified, and I was not happy with the hand of the fabric when it came off the loom. It was too stiff or it was too loose or something was wonky. So now that I've cut off my warp ends, I'm going to release the ratchet dog, which is this little metal part that holds the ratchet gear from turning backwards. I'm going to release that and I'm going to flip up the little pawl on my warp advance lever that helps me tighten tension. And now with those things undone, I can just unwind. And as I go, I'm going to undo my T-pins in my adding machine ribbon and pull those strips off for reuse. I'm going to pull out the separation parts that kept my warp unwoven. And now I finally have more T-pins. I don't know what on earth happened to my large collection of them. I can't find them anywhere. I suspect the problem came when I was doing my de-stationing. And so any pins I see, I am just undoing them as I go. There shouldn't be any more for my attempts to repair broken warp ends, but you never know. And now suddenly I've got many more T-pins. And I want to just, because I haven't seen this. This is the first time I'm seeing all these scarves together. Okay, so this is scarf 1, where I use the orangish turmeric weft. This is scarf 2, where I use the cherry weft. And you can see that they look like cousins, but not sisters even. And a different treadling, slightly different patterning. And finally, this last one where I used the burgundy as the weft. And everything where it's weft dominant on the right side becomes warp dominant on the other side and vice versa. So yeah, This is really fun. This is an exciting moment when you finally get to see what you made. Okay, what am I going to do at this beginning? Because remember, I still need 5 inches of unwoven warp to do my fringe. What I'm going to do here, and this would probably be easier if I grabbed one of my T-pins, is just undo each of these knots, and then I'm going to snip. Where'd my snips go? I'm going to snip my header yarn so that I can pull it out really quickly and easily. And then before I wet finish these scarves, I am going to do my fringe twisting. So that'll be the next video.